Hi, everyone. Well, we sure had an election in this country. Good job, everyone. American elections are awesome because most of the world has to watch, even though they have no say. They will be affected by it, though. So sorry about that. With Donald Trump's historic electoral victory also came a flood of conspiracy theories from panicked liberals online that escalated so quickly and circulated so rapidly. It's honestly a little unnerving. It's not good.
There has to be something going on. Everyone is far too quiet.
And I think they're gonna move in silence for a lot longer than we want them to.
Something big is coming and that it's taking them a minute.
So there definitely is some shit kind of going down that's getting very difficult to ignore.
Something just hadn't set right with me. Donald Trump has been way too quiet.
When you have the possible evidence or path to the proof of something this sinister, you have to have all your ducks in a row.
What do y'all think of this?
Liberals quickly lost their minds and became Trump 2020 style election truthers, blaming anything and everything aside from the obvious. And to me, it feels like they're burying their heads in the sand to feel like they were actually in the right for supporting a candidate that was doomed to fail because of the campaign she chose to run. But before we get into it, here's a quick word from today's video sponsor, Factor. Hey, I bet you're eating right now watching this video. I see you, and if you aren't eating, you'll love what this ad is for. When I need something to eat when I watch my favorite YouTube content, I use Factor. Factor's convenient weekly meal deliveries have saved me time and money from the grocery store and its evil hauls full of corn and sugar. No waste of extra ingredients, no shrinkflation, just chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered straight to your door every week. And Factor has options for everyone, whether you eat keto, low-calorie, or vegan. Factor has a week of meals just waiting for you to eat it. Factor also has flexible delivery dates and meal plans, no matter what your goals are, whether you're trying to slim down, bulk up, or just get through the day with solid meals. You already know, Factor's meals are easy, convenient, and delicious. And every week they also have more than 60 add-ons, things like breakfast, on-the-go lunch, and beverages to keep you going throughout the week. I'm personally a big Factor head. I love consistency, and having reliably great meals every week that I know I'll eat is a huge weight off my shoulders, gives me peace of mind, and leaves me more time for gaming. Factor eliminates the stress of meal prep, saves you time and money, and fits perfectly into your diet and your schedule. If you'd like to try Factor and be eating in style the next time you're watching YouTube, you can get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your first month of orders with my code ETHAN50 at checkout. Click the link in the description or use the QR code on your screen. Use code ETHAN50 at checkout for, again, 50% off your first box and 20% off your first month of deliveries. Support the channel and your wallet and your stomach by clicking the link and subscribing to Factor today. Each order directly helps me make more content like this, so if you want to support the channel, check out Factor, use code ETHAN50 for 50% off your first box and 20% off your first month. Thank you very much to Factor for supporting this video and supporting my stomach with your food. Let's get back to it. There really isn't anyone else to blame other than the Harris campaign for Harris losing, but liberal media manufactured consent for the Harris campaign and misled people, distracted them from real issues, and much like 2016, are walking away with the wrong lessons.
They were too woke, insisting that people use the term Latinx.
Too far to the left on transgender rights.
You have to say they. No, you have to do this.
Stop with the virtue signaling.
Step away from woke. Focus less on who is woke and more on who is broke.
These corporate media talking points trickle down into social media and start spreading among ordinary people out of desire to believe them. Harris's campaign was unable to focus on material issues and often ignored observable reality, which was a problem the campaign more or less inherited from the Biden administration. From COVID to Gaza to Joe Biden's fitness to be in office, institutional Democrats for the last 3 years have been consistently saying things like, "We beat COVID," "The genocide is actually a justifiable war," or "Joe Biden is as sharp as ever." Institutional Democrats and the media alongside them told people things that just weren't true. Harris was set up to fail, and failed even harder than anyone imagined, even being in that position. And it's because she didn't change the playbook. And the average ordinary people who uncritically supported the Harris campaign now have no material context to comprehend why she lost, because they were never given material reasons to support her in the first place. And in the same way these misleading strategies did for Trump's supporters in 2020, this creates a psychological off-ramp for conspiratorial thinking. It's a lot easier to swallow some bonkers hypothetical that's closer to the lies the media has been telling you when you aren't even made aware of the fundamental problems with the campaign in the first place. And if you tried to bring it up, they would hand wave it away. Oh, we're working around the clock to stop the genocide. I guess they had Joe Biden draw the clock. TikTok's algorithm often exacerbates how far these conspiracies can reach and how extremely out of touch they can be.
Okay, so I'm loving everything that's going around right now about the election. But the thing is, if we are coming to all of these conclusions, like how could all of the swing states voted in Democratic governors, senators, and President Trump? Where are all of the, votes if there was record voter turnout that didn't end up turning into votes? I gotta hope and know and pray that Kamala's people are also doing those things. There has to be something going on. Everyone is far too quiet. Everyone is far too quiet. Like everyone, both sides, too quiet. We have to keep being loud. Go comment on politicians, videos, Instagram, whatever. Like say, hey, are we doing a recount, bestie? Like I need to know that y'all are working on this and that you really didn't just give up. Please, I need to know.
Are we gonna have a recount, bestie? At Bernie Sanders? Please, bestie. It does make me really sad that your average face-tuned wine mom on TikTok is more passionate about the electoral loss than Kamala Harris was. Her concession speech was pretty much nothing, and I don't know, no one's seen her since. I guess she just went home.
Let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant billion of stars.
Maybe get a billion votes first. I'm sorry. So obviously a lot of these conspiracy TikToks are from right after the election, and most of these people just haven't really posted since then. But when the campaign is already so vibes-based, the reaction to the loss is also gonna be vibes-based. She's just hoping and praying that, I don't know, I guess stuff is different.
How could all of the swing states voted in Democratic governors, senators, and President Trump?
It's just crazy how we can't even approach the idea that this is a referendum on the current administration. It's done a bad job. It's done a bad job. We did not fall out of a coconut tree.
It looks like Kamala Harris will be requesting for a recount. And I'm not trying to get my hopes up because I already had them up and they were completely dashed. The Harris Victory Fund quietly updated their page, and that it now says a portion of the money donated to the fund will be allocated to Harris for President Recount account, signaling that Kamala Harris' team is gearing up to watch the count of votes in contested states closely. This needed to happen because there's been too many things that have just not sit right in my soul. Donald Trump has been way too quiet. He has not been boasting and bragging like he will boast and brag about anything because he won the actual election and he's not doing anything. That's suspicious.
Why is everyone saying that Trump is being quiet? He gave a victory speech the night of the election. What? He hasn't been doing rallies, I guess. He won already, so he doesn't have to. And he's been out of the public eye for the most part because he's been appointing a cabal of rapists to ruin the government. This is looking too much into something that you don't understand and then filling in the gaps in your understanding with wishes and hopes. Like, I wish Trump stole the election. I wish I could, that would be a much more interesting video to make right now. But now we have to spend this time pointing out that he didn't have to.
I'm a technologist. I know a lot about computers. And I'm like, the last thing I would do is trust a computer program. Because it's just too easy to hack. It's too easy to add just one line.
I'm a technologist. I know computers. And I wouldn't trust the computers. Isn't this the guy that wants computers to drive cars? Why would you say that? When did he trade in the P-MAGA hat for the dark gothic MAGA hat?
I'm dark gothic MAGA.
Piss MAGA, pee-pee MAGA, little pee-pee guy. Many of you probably don't know because you don't watch as many Trump rallies as I do. Not because I'm a fan or anything. But at one of the last, if not the last rally for Trump's 2024 bid, he called Elon the king of computers.
They have the beautiful computers. You buy a computer. Oh, this is the greatest. 2 weeks later, it's obsolete. That goes on. I don't know how people do it. We have the king of computers. We have the king of everything endorsed me, Elon Musk.
I think that's actually going to be his official cabinet position. So a lot of the conspiracy theories about the election involve Elon Musk or Starlink to some degree, and I don't know what to tell you. I already made a video about the things Elon Musk was doing to steal the election, And they worked. I'm all for pointing out how evil and corrupt this rat man is, but the way Elon rigged the election was more institutional. He raffled $1 million to potential Trump voters. He gave you money to vote. I mean, that's like the easiest way to rig an election ever. And if you win, it's not illegal. But the Starlink conspiracy specifically is really confusing and it's not real. It's mumbo jumbo, silly stuff. This is the official gay guy. Let's hear from him.
Starlink satellite breaks up over southwest U.S., creates fireworks in the sky. November 10th, 2024, 2:41 p.m. What do y'all think of this?
I think it's funny, and I think Starlink shouldn't be given military contracts anymore. This kind of reminds me of like the Chinese spy balloon, which liberals also panicked about too. That wasn't an exclusively conservative panic, but just like looking at something and being like, hey, what does that mean? That must mean something, right? It's not good.
I thought I was crazy, but now I'm hearing one of our more influential people, members of Congress in AOC, giving out a very cryptic message saying that something big is coming and that it's taking them a minute. And after the investigation by the Department of Defense, the Secret Service, and the IRS of all fields, I'm actually starting to think, and don't quote me on this is just my feeling, I'm starting to think that the Democrats are going to file a formal challenge against the 2024 election.
That's just made up. He just made all that up. And the screenshot he uses as evidence it just says, I've been getting a lot of questions to this effect. AOC's message? What is the message? Where are you looking for this message? Is the message in the room with us now? It's all very QAnon coded. They're working behind the scenes. The shadow people are gonna overturn the election. A lot of this feels like both a mix of wanting to believe something and wanting to sound like you're more informed than you actually are. Just throwing stuff out there about AOC, Department of Defense. It's like what Alex Jones does. You're doing buzzwords. FBI, CIA, SSD, Yoda Byte, Baby Yoda. It's all connected. They're recounting the votes tomorrow. Kamala still has a chance. Don't give up hope. I mean, every comment is just, Trump is your president. Keep crying, liberal. I'm going to lose my Medicare and I'm happy about it. I hated veterans benefits anyway.
Hey guys, so there definitely is some shit kind of going down that's getting very difficult to ignore. We're going to deal in facts though, and we're going to deal in proof, and we're going to deal in evidence. I want to share this letter from Stephen Spoonamore that was drafted and I believe being sent to Josh Shapiro's office for what he found in inconsistencies in his county, Center County in Pennsylvania. It appears that Mr. Spoonamore is a hacking investigator and has worked for the DOD. And I think it's important that you see what he sees. First, I want you to read this paragraph right here.
Okay, girl, I'm not reading any of that. Who is Stephen Spoonamore? He's just some guy. First thing that comes up is his LinkedIn. He wrote a letter to Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. Well, Kamala Harris lost so severely that overturning a state like Pennsylvania, one state doesn't do it. You'd need to overturn at least two. It's extreme to expect something like this, the overturning of this election. It would have to be magic. That's the only way it would happen. This comment says, makes sense. The Starlink satellite just blew up. Would it had too many votes in it? What is this stupid ass letter that this Spoonamore guy? I don't care about Stephen Spoonamore and his stupid letter. I'm gonna be honest. Stephen Spoonamore doesn't know anything about anything. He's not even real to me. She replies to a comment saying they are moving in silence.
Yeah, and I think they're gonna move in silence for a lot longer than we want them to. I actually find it comforting to know that they haven't said anything yet, to be honest, because that means they're not ready to prematurely discuss what they have found. When you have the possible evidence or path to the proof of something this sinister, you have to have all your ducks in a row. And I would rather them stay quiet and get all of their ducks in a row than prematurely say something.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, we go one, we go all. Trust the plan. The storm is coming. They're moving in silence. Come on. Like, get real. Listen to yourselves. What did Kamala Harris do? She's turning average, ordinary liberals into QAnon-style Republicans. She did this. This is your bipartisanship. She was gonna vote for the Dick Cheney-endorsed candidate. Think about that.
Okay, I think I'm convinced now. I was going over the exit polling and looking at the total number of voters that voted for Donald Trump compared to the total number of voters that voted for Kamala Harris. And I think that I'm starting to agree that there is something weird about this election. When you look at the total number of voters, right, the total number of voters that participated in this election, and you see that the majority of them decided that misogyny, racism, homophobia, transphobia, bigotry in general, being a bully, being a habitual liar, having no moral compass, being a convicted felon, having pending felony charges against them, causing an insurrection to try to overthrow the government because they lost a previous election. None of those were deal breakers for them when choosing a presidential candidate. That is what is really weird about this election.
Okay, this one isn't a conspiracy, but it is annoying. I have to say, this point about Trump being the immoral choice because he's a corrupt felon, I mean, it's not hard to remember that Joe Biden is a war criminal. Like, on paper, in the current direction of global history, Joe Biden will be remembered as a war criminal who aided, funded, and defended a genocide. And even before that, Obama won his first election in 2008 by campaigning on prosecuting war criminals from the Bush administration, whose VP, Kamala Harris, was endorsed by. And he's a war criminal too. Make no fucking mistake. He makes Joe Biden look like a lightweight. And obviously, Obama never did that prosecution.
I don't believe that anybody is above the law. On the other hand, I also have a belief that we need to look forward as opposed to looking backwards. For example, at the CIA, you've got extraordinarily talented people who are working very hard to keep Americans safe. I don't want them to suddenly feel like they've got to spend all their time looking over their shoulders.
America has a history of openly criminal leaders that face no repercussions and live long, healthy lives, and often have their names and their legacies sanitized in the name of nationalistic patriotism, the very same bloodthirsty ideology under which they slaughtered people.
Former Vice President Dick Cheney, unwavering in his support for the harsh interrogation tactics that happened on his watch, today ratcheted up his defense on Meet the Press.
I'd do it again in a minute.
Cheney argued the methods, including prolonged periods of waterboarding, were necessary in the wake of the September 11th attacks and insisted the procedures were not torture.
Torture was what the al-Qaeda terrorists did to 3,000 Americans on 9/11. There's no comparison between that and what we did with respect to enhanced interrogation.
I'm honored to have their endorsement, and I think that what they both, as leaders who are well respected, are making an important statement that it's okay, and if not important, to put country above party. And I'm honored to have their support, and I think it's an important statement right now. A lot of what I think is happening, and I was just talking with some folks here in Pittsburgh about it, is that people are exhausted about the division and the attempts to kind of divide us as Americans. And them stepping up to make this public statement, I think, is courageous, but also for people like the folks I was just talking with, it really reinforces for them that we love our country and we have more in common than what separates us.
Donald Trump being convicted of falsifying records pales in comparison to the crimes against humanity his own previous administration got away with and is very likely to repeat.
This morning, former Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director Tom Homan, who carried out one of the most controversial border policies during Donald Trump's first term, is set to return to the White House. The president-elect announced Homan will serve as border czar, tapped to fulfill Trump's campaign promise of the largest mass deportation in American history.
There's a reason that this argument against Trump held no water in this election.
Only when it is dark enough can you see the stars.
Okay, we got a classic Gen X TikTok here. I knew that line felt coded, I just couldn't put my finger on it. Steven Spoonamore. What the fuck? Get him out of here, Steven Spoonamore. Spoon my ass. Looking for coded messages. She didn't mean Starlink. That's not, this is bad. Uh-oh. What's going on to your aunts on TikTok? That TikTok ban is still just waiting to be passed. The plan was always to pass it after the election, and I'm starting to think it might be a good idea. I'm just kidding. It's gonna suck. While social media does contribute to how far these theories spread and often is responsible for accelerating them for the sake of clicks and views. If the media wasn't withholding the truth from people and distorting reality, they wouldn't be primed to believe these kinds of things. Like, as much as these people are goofy and silly, it's not really their fault. People aren't really equipped with critical thinking skills, and I feel, especially this age demographic, is becoming more and more insulated on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, that they don't even understand why people are voting against Harris in the first place. They're just like out of touch with reality, and it's not good to live like that and have it normalized on your phone all the time. Only when it is darkest can you see the stars. Starlink. Stars, Starlink. Maybe I'm taking it too seriously. Maybe I'm some kind of asshole, and these people are just looking for some hope in their lives, and I'm stomping it out because it's not real. So sorry. There's this consistent attitude of like, how did Trump win? That I also find very irritating. I feel like I hear it on the news like 1,000 times a day. How did this happen? Oh my God, how did Trump win? American elections are a binary choice. In the words of Andrew Yang, if you give people two choices, they will choose one of them. You can't argue with that. If there isn't a good enough campaign against a popular Republican candidate, what else can even happen? The Harris campaign's primary argument against the Republican Party as a whole was, well, they're actually my friends as long as they're not named Donald Trump. Let's get one in the cabinet. Come on. I mean, she was touting the endorsement of one of the least popular vice presidents in modern history. It is almost exactly like asking Mike Pence to speak at the DNC in the name of dignity and bipartisanship. This corporate status quo warmongering party couldn't have been further from the Obama 2008 era, progressive appearing at least, hope and change movement the Democrats have tried to masquerade themselves with ever since. It's hard to say you're a progressive campaign when you don't even openly support trans people or allow Palestinian Democrats a voice at the DNC, opting instead to quietly annihilate their families in lockstep with a war criminal government. But she wants tax cuts for the middle class. That's what progressive is to liberals now, I guess. She will sign abortion rights into law whenever Congress decides to give her that bill. That could not have been a weaker position for one of the election's most crucial issues. All of this is to say that this is no one's fault other than Kamala Harris's and the Democratic establishment that has refused to adapt to people's needs at the moment. Only they had the power to change course, and they chose a political path that would have been grim even if she somehow won. What's really distressing about the reaction from liberals is how easily the internet and social media algorithms are meeting people where they are, no matter how panicked or unreasonable. TikTok especially is insulating people in spaces where facts aren't represented properly. Half-baked conclusions are being drawn and spread before anyone can even question them. Critical thinking and media literacy take a backseat to emotional pandering and wishes that are just fruitless. I fear that the process of interfacing with the internet is becoming type in what you want to see and the computer will make it for you. Whether it's AI or conspiratorial excuses for the Democratic Party, believing in this stuff is hurting people. So many of these folks are sealed in echo chambers that only reaffirm their biases and clearly leave them unprepared for reality when it inevitably finds them. Again, there is literally no other faction to blame other than the Democratic Party establishment for so obviously fumbling their chance to prevent Trump from winning. They turn their back on trans people, on Palestine, and on you. There's no need to defend the Democrats just because they offered the only alternative to suffering, especially because it wasn't even an alternative. I really hope people learn how to hold their politicians accountable and look in the right places when they're suffering because their voice is not heard. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you had a good time, press the like button, or if you have a friend who is still into Kamala Harris, send them this video. Be sure to check out my socials in the description. Thanks again so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.